Psycho Pass is pretty cool. That cyberpunk thriller with the vibe police and guns that explode people. A badass roller coaster where cool guys fight bad dudes for the sake of justice. At least, that would be my impression of it. Yet, when I put my ear to the ground, all the shouts and murmurs are about how Psycho Pass is a great social commentary, and how this guy is such a great villain.
One of the best villains in anime.
Shogo Makashima makes his motivations clear. We live in a society. The Sibyl System, which decides everyone's lives for them and protects them from even having to see anyone with a bad disposition, has made them soft. What's more, it crushes the human spirit, and makes people unable to express themselves. He would say it's literally 1984, as he broodingly reads his copy of George Orwell's 1984. The audience is meant to take him seriously on this point, as do many of the characters in the setting. The only trouble is, on further inspection, it doesn't feel like he's describing the world of Psycho Pass at all. There's this sequence in episode 2 where our protags arrest this stalkerish guy at the mall for failing a vibe check, and he says things to the effect of, "But I haven't done anything yet." This seems perfectly natural. It's what you or I would say were we accosted by the constabulary while staring at the goth classmate across the food court. But bruh isn't you or I. He is supposed to have lived an entire life monitored and controlled by the mind-reading supercomputers, where people around him might have been taken away for thought crime. The point of 1984 is not to scare you about mass surveillance and draconian punishment, but the way that totalitarianism crushes people's spirits and unalives the ability to conceive of resistance. Language itself is changed to unalive people's double plus on good crime think. Orwell's nightmare come to life is not even knowing what it is to announce that you will masturbate on Discord, not that the mods will ban you for it. The idea of an average person in the world of Psycho Pass behaving like this guy when they are being arrested is a little hard to believe. At least if we take Makashima over there at his word. Surely, no child is raised without an understanding of the Sibyl System, and their entire concept of morality should be shaped towards submission to the current order. He should understand that the way he is feeling is not just a crime, but repugnant. If this truly was the relentlessly crushing literally 1984, having an inkling of subversive ideas like freedom and due process would be a way more serious crime than being a creep. Escalating this guy's sentence from re-education to Kanahanazawa here, frog marching him into a concrete basement with a drain in the floor. The show generally gives the impression that the Sibyl System has been totally ineffective or disinterested in brainwashing the masses. And I'm not talking about the edge case serial killers our heroes end up tangling with. Early in the series, we have Akane's pedestrian friends, bemoaning their lack of agency in their lives and desiring freedom. Again, griping about exams and careers might sound normal to the audience if you assume the characters are just like us for real. But if this really is Orwell's nightmare come to life, where the decisive power of Sybil is the bedrock of society, where journalists and academics were banished, where punk music and being gay is a crime, this seems like a mildly seditious conversation that knocks points off your social credit score, not one you have in public in light tones. The only character who is shown to have an actual devotion to the Sibyl System is Akane herself, and that is quickly broken by the course of the plot. Even the normies, who owe everything to Sybil and haven't seen the dark side, are just kind of acquiescent at best. The big scene that's meant to demonstrate how complacent the population is, where a guy stabs a woman to death in the middle of a crowd who can do nothing but gawk and film on their phones, is not really that far off from videos you see in real life from all around the world. Aha, you might say. That was the point. Psycho Pass is meant to be almost like real life. Your whole life is decided by a handful of exams, and people just judge you on your vibes. Well, in that case, it's a pretty lame allegory. Because, I'm sorry to say, the structures of our society don't solely rest on some tiny gang of despots hiding in a basement somewhere, sending out drones and slaves to do their bidding by threat of death. Your parents telling you to get married already, the good old boys at work, some of the things you read online, and the architecture of the place you live. Power structures that remain in place tend to have wide and deep roots that are visible all throughout society, enjoying support from some and taking pains to convince everyone else. The impression you get from Psycho Pass is that the Sibyl System is like an occupying foreign army that barged in the day before yesterday and has failed to change the world beyond where it can hold it in place by force. Crime is predicted and violently punished based on people's mental states, yet beyond these punitive measures, we never see what society does to proactively reshape the psyche. Makashima refers to Orwell and Foucault and Bentham like the cultured man he is. But if he had actually read those works, he would realize they weren't talking about methods of surveillance, they were talking about methods of control. Not how to station policemen or read minds, but how to make everyone a cop, for themselves and those around them. I think the best interpretation of Shogo Makashima is that his little book club moments actually are, in universe, shallow, pretentious name drops. His societal critiques nothing but self-justifying sophistry. Kogami hits the nail right on the head. Makashima feels alienated from Sibyl society by his criminally asymptomatic status, and simply resents the fact that he does not fit in, his will to destruction coming from pique, not individualist idealism. You see, the point of this isn't that I'm smarter than the creators of this show. I think there's some pretty clever ideas and character work here. There is a reason, after all, that Gen the Butcher was a consistent hitmaker for years. And I spend much of my time watching some pretty lowbrow shit. It's just... Did you ever watch Standalone Complex? You know, the crime and punishment series with cyborgs and hackers? There's this scene where the Major briefs the Prime Minister on something by giving her a plug from her cyberbrain. After she's done, the PM gives the wire a useless little wipe with her handkerchief before handing it back. You see that? That's how you know cyberbrains are real in this world. Aristocratic rich people have formed new manners so they can flex on the pores while using them. These technologies have been around for a while and have had visible second-order impacts on the way people think. A vintage sex bot enthusiast destroys all duplicates of his robot GF so she can be his alone. The ubiquitous flow of information causes people to simultaneously come up with the same ideas and perform similar acts without any actual coordination. Psycho Pass was set up as a spiritual successor to Standalone Complex by the same studio and all. But there was a lack of imagination to how this even more dramatically evolved socio-political order would change the people who live inside it. I think the characters would have felt more natural if they showed more resistance and trepidation in criticizing Sibyl's order, and if there were some effort to shift the language and mannerisms away from those of contemporary Japan. One should both imagine in what way the system would ideally reshape society and how people would, in fact, react to it. Perhaps Sibyl values honesty, so now Japan looks like East Germany with everyone snitching and denouncing on each other constantly. Psycho Pass is ultimately a goofy fun time, with a lot of gore and vague ripped-from-the-headlines type social commentary to keep people engaged. Serious world-building was cast aside just so there could be more patented Gen Urobuchi twist moments. The world seems to run on the rigid logic of dysfunctional computers, but wow, isn't it crazy? It's actually a bunch of dudes in jars who can act arbitrarily to defend themselves, but not when it actually matters, I guess. Bottom line, Psycho Pass is kind of stupid. There are a lot of individually thoughtful concepts and interesting characters packed into an incredible presentation, but it utterly misses the mark in places, and there was little effort to make it logically or thematically cohesive. As Descartes once said, the anime community should expect better, and not take it at face value when others quote supposedly smart people and refer to philosophical concepts.